In Basra, the militia took action and surrounded Camp Stephen, a satellite base holding a small detachment of Marines and guarded by soldiers of the Iraqi army.
The Iraqi army who were based in that camp were on the verge of capitulating to the militia.
In quick response, 1 Royal Horse Artillery tasked the patrol. Their job was to provide fire support from 2 vehicles as the troops stranded in Camp Stephen extracted past the militia and to safety.
As we left camp, it was obvious that something was not right with the day.
50, 60 metres apart, convoy distance sort of thing, how quiet it was.
The streets were bare. Something wasn't right.
The absence of normal activity, no one around, is a combat indicator, a good sign that trouble's around the corner.
In the middle of the road, there was a big barrier. It must have been about 2 foot high. And I knew there was a gap in that barrier where we was going to turn around and then wait for the call sign to extract. It's only when I got within a few feet of that gap in the road that I realised that it was blocked. That's when we got contacted. It was like flicking on a switch. It was like a hailstorm, like you're driving up the motorway and you come across a freak hailstorm.
I saw the flame of an RPG basically, and the smoke trail behind it come straight at us.
There was militia all over the streets, running in and out of buildings. There was on tops of houses. There was fire from shop windows.
Contact! Contact! In an ambush, there's only 2 choices. Back the way you came, or straight into a wall of lead.
We drove something like 2 kilometres, constantly under this heavy hailstorm of bullets and RPGs. Then we hit an IED. And from that point then, the vehicle was just limping along on 3 wheels.
Terry and the lads got no choice but to abort their mission. Now they need to focus on getting themselves to safety. The patrol head for the Ba'ath Party headquarters. Staffed by friendly Iraqi forces, it's their best chance for some cover. But the militia have beat them to it.
We were engaged now from 2 or 3 different directions. We were very much surrounded.
Going to go forward.
We knew we had no communications back to base. We knew our vehicles weren't going to last very much longer. We knew we had to get ourselves to safety. It was just how we was going to go about doing all of that. I suppose one of the hardest choices I had to make was we're going to have to leave the vehicles. And the guys did just burst out, and as they burst out, they were on the floor straight away, laying down fire.
Shoot! The lads were now relying on their training and their SA-80 A2 assault rifles. A standard issue weapon for most British troops, it packs a punch. Ambushed and taking heavy enemy fire, Terry, Bryan and the lads' only option is to leave their vehicles, safety catches off and put their SA-80s into action.
At this point, things were going through my head at 100 miles an hour again. You knew if you sat still that they would be on you within seconds. I suppose one of the hardest choices I had to make was we're going to have to leave the vehicles, because if we stay with the vehicles, they know where to come and get us. So we extracted out the area up the only way that was left available, really, up a street, narrow street. It was so intense, it was so fast and it was so fluid. There were still bullets flicking up by your feet as you're running along.
It's 1-0 to al-Sadr's militia. As the lads take cover, a local cameraman shoots this incredible footage of the insurgents. With both vehicles destroyed, the militia turn their attentions back to the men who escaped. Terry and the lads become the focus of a deadly manhunt.
Basically, we could hear the insurgents, they'd lost us. And they were just saying, look, be quiet, be quiet. We could hear them running up and down the streets, randomly firing into where they thought we were.
The lads desperately need backup, and that means contacting base. But none of their radios survive the ambush. Terry's mobile phone is their last hope.
So when I rang the ops room initially, you know, they saw my number flash up on the screen. Oh, hello, how are you? You know, I'm fucking in the shit here, basically. And they're like taken aback straight away. They were under the impression that everything was going on really well because we were still within the time scale of things, and it all came out like 100 miles an hour.
If you were trying to create a scenario which you know, was worst case, a nightmare scenario, then that would be it. You know, 9 guys on foot, lightly armed, and isolated from friendly forces by some considerable distance. I had absolutely no doubt that some of those soldiers who were out on foot deep into Basra would be killed.
With half of Basra hunting them down, the lads' only chance of survival is to get something solid between them and the enemy.
I'd picked out a house that we were going to occupy and set up a defensive position. Then we came across another wave, really, of incoming fire. They'd obviously pinpointed where we were. They'd had time to come round, maybe flank us from a different direction. But we could have potentially been going into another trap. So I picked 2 guys and I asked them to clear the house.
But as the lads are checking every room is clear, the insurgents give them a nasty surprise.
Suddenly shouted grenade, a grenade comes right past, over his shoulder sort of thing, sort of rolled to the back of the room.
Terry and his patrol got into a house. They had a solid wall now between them and the enemy. But now there's nowhere to run.
Well, then it just came in wave after wave of incoming fire.
Very loud. Obviously inside of an house, it's all enclosed in, machine gun fire. They're obviously firing RPGs still at us, machine gun fire grenades.
And it became very evident then that it was a very well-planned operation that they'd done. They'd used the mob outside the base earlier on as the bait. You know, we went out, we took the bait, and they attacked us.
There was a lot of people milling around, obviously heard what was going off, got transport, whatever, jumped on the bandwagon basically. And obviously they're all getting very excited by this time because they're obviously trying to get us out of the house and things like that.
Things are probably becoming a bit too much. The intensity of the fighting, the pressure, and everything just gets up on you. You've got so much to think about.
Terry and Matt are taking it in turns to relay their position to base via a mobile phone. But before a quick reaction force is starting to take its toll.
And, you know, I sat down with Ollie and we had a conversation about, God, if this is the end, what we're going to do. And we had all sorts of ideas running through our heads. They wouldn't kill us, they would probably just drag us off and torture us and make some display of us.
We obviously know that surrender isn't even an option for these people. The worst scenarios, it could be anything. Obviously it's going to result in some sort of death, but...
I didn't want to be tortured. I'd rather take it myself, you know, do it myself.
Suicide, it's unthinkable. Unless you're about to be overrun and ripped apart.
We just counted enough rounds out. It was a very quick, frank conversation that if push comes to shove and we do get swarmed, that we'd do the lads and then we'd do each other if need be.
Soldiers know that if they get captured in Iraq or Afghanistan, death is probably the better option. If you're contemplating killing your mate, the rest of your patrol, and then yourself, you know things are as bad as they are ever going to get.
Their lives are in the balance.